Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Clarelle Degraffe, and I am the Director and General Manager of PATH. And I am located in Jersey City, New Jersey, good old New Jersey, across the river from New York. And, very excited about sharing with you how PATH's response was very challenged during this period of COVID, as I'm sure for many of my transportation colleagues. So this is going to be a very productive conversation, I expect, and some really good questions and dialogue back and forth during the panel discussion. So I welcome that, Mike. So let me tell you a little bit about PATH. Those of you that are not familiar, we are a 13.8 mile rapid rail transit system. And we are, again, located in the main headquarters located in Jersey City, New Jersey. We serve the New York and New Jersey Trans-Hudson network. We have 4 lines that serve 13 stations in towns of New Jersey, across New Jersey, and also 2 main stations one in Lower Manhattan, which serves World Trade Center, and another one that serves our Midtown service very close to Penn Station, New York. So as you can imagine, our system, even though small, we are actually the second densest system in the United States, second only to MTA. And even though we're small line, 13.8 miles, as I said, we carry a lot of people, or at least we did pre-COVID. We carried close to 300,000 passengers on average on a weekday across the Hudson River. The majority of our riders coming in from New Jersey, going into various parts of New York. We're regulated by the FRA, that's the Federal Railroad Association that governs many of the railroads the commuter railroads in America. And we fall under the category of that of a commuter railroad. We have a staff of approximately 1,200 personnel, 900 of which are represented staff covered by 11 unions. So you can imagine the complications. Even though we're a small railroad, again, it's a very complicated structure. We are a subsidiary of the Port Authority that is the owner and manager of the 5 airports in the New York, New Jersey area, the tunnels and bridges, the George Washington, Lincoln, Holland tunnels, the Goethals, the Bayonne Bridge, the bus terminal at 42nd, and also up at in George Washington Bridge bus terminal. So we are a daughter company or a subsidiary that was acquired in 1962, along with the rights to the World Trade Center. So in 2019, as I shared with you, is the second densest system in America. We carried over 82 million passengers. So just in December, we were carrying close to 300,000 passengers on a given weekday, which totaled to about 82 million in 2019. And like many other mass transit agencies, our ridership numbers plummeted as a result of COVID. And throughout February and March, our ridership started showing a sharp decline. And we really hit our lowest point below 15,000. I believe it was about anywhere between 13 to 14,000 passengers a day we were doing just after Easter. So that was around the April 12th timeframe. Very low period for us, very dark period for us, as I'm sure many of my transportation colleagues can attest to. We were really, it was managing not even day by day, but moment by moment, because so many of the facts were changing. So many of the protocols we were putting into place had to be enhanced or changed because of the new information we were getting from our public health officials. And it was a very, very challenging time. We lost 95% of our ridership and fear gripped the world, as I'm sure my colleagues that are on here in London and elsewhere can attest to. Fear gripped us with this pandemic because there was so much uncertainty. And by mid-March, large numbers of our PATH staff had to go into quarantine, including myself, due either to exposure from COVID or being the fact that someone close to you had contracted COVID. And this included our essential workers. Essential workers are those that actually operate and maintain the railroad. Those who are conductors, our engineers, our maintainers, they had to come into work. And we had to also be concerned for their safety because we did not know how this virus was being transmitted. There was so much information out there that we could not get our arms around. And it was a very, very difficult time for us to really manage. And, as I talk about, these were, we hear it all the time in the news, these were unprecedented times, for PATH, for the transportation industry. And that really called for unprecedented leadership and action during these times because of the fact that this was not an event like 9/11. Many of us remember 9/11. It wasn't an event like a hurricane or a natural disaster that happens. And once it happens and then you start moving towards recovery, this was a pandemic that was ongoing, that is ongoing, that you're just gathering information and just really trying to maneuver through the information. And the main point behind it was safety, which was scary because people's lives were at stake. Their families' lives were at stake as we sought to continue transportation to provide some level of transport for our essential workers, essential healthcare workers that needed to go in and take care of those that fell ill to the disease. But, I'm happy to report that our agency, due to its leadership of Chairman O'Toole and Rick Cotton, who took quick action, even under quarantine. We were one of the first transportation agencies to have to go into quarantine. Our leader had been exposed to the virus due to a previous exposure a couple of days before, and several of the executive staff ended up in quarantine. I was one of the first ones. I remember getting the call from our health department that Monday morning coming in, that was March 9th, coming into work and telling me I needed to go back home in quarantine. And it was, I was really in denial, in self-denial. It was very scary. And I remember going back home and letting my husband and my son know, my son who was home from college at the time, and letting them know what had happened. And I had to immediately quarantine myself in the lower levels of our home in Queens, New York for 14 days. And it was very uncertain, very unsure as we're getting information. But in spite of that, we communicated, our leadership at the helm of the Port Authority communicated every day. We would have meetings. That's when Zoom became a major element, or WebEx, which is what we are using now, became the main form of communication. And we met every day. Communication was key, consistent, very often. Communication was key during these times because rumors ran rapid. Lives were being lost, and we needed to manage the information that was out there. So the one way to do it is by being authentic, being transparent, and telling the correct story, telling it with facts, and trying to manage people's fear, from that point. And we were able to quickly, as a leadership team of the agency, develop a plan of action. which really put safety at the forefront, safety of not just our riders that was still on the system, even though it was just 14,000 riders a day, that was just as important as 300,000 riders. So the safety of those riders, what we needed to do to make sure that they were safe, but not only that, the safety of our staff, of our essential workers that were going out there every day, putting their lives on the line because we didn't know if they touched a surface, if we didn't know if they came close to someone else that may have had a cough. There was so much at stake. We had to implement safety procedures immediately. And you're talking about an 8,000 strong organization, the Port Authority, that had to, on a dime, make a turn to remote, having a third of your organization go into remote operation while the other 2/3 were coming to work because they were essential workers, because they were critical essential healthcare workers that had to be transported, that had to continue going to work to take care of those that were sick, very, very sick. And that was of utmost importance to our leadership. And that trickled its way down to us as directors, as leaders that had large staff. I lead 1,200 staff in PATH, as I said, and that was very critical, so that translated into communicating with my supervisors in the field every day. We had 8 a.m. meetings on the phone every day with my supervisors in the field in order to manage, to understand how they were feeling emotionally, mentally, what was going on as they saw their friends, their colleagues going into quarantine. You can imagine the fear that was, and actually talking to them, actually sharing facts with them, letting them know what we were doing to help their safety. Letting them know how much we appreciated them, how much they're needed in this time, because there were essential healthcare workers that needed to go into the city to take care of others. It was a critical time where you were not only managing tasks and a project and rebuilding, but you were managing people's emotions, people's fears, and it was very real. And it really called for unprecedented leadership. Not that you don't always take into consideration people and have emotional IQ, but this was different. This was different. And I believe we really went outside the norm of how we usually manage in PATH and the Port Authority to be able to assist in trying to manage our staff and help our workers be safe and encourage them to continue coming to work. As soon as I was out of quarantine after the 14 days, got tested, was negative after I was in quarantine, made my way straight to the field and let them see that I'm with you. I understand what you're going through. I'm with you. Very important for them to see that leadership. Our executive director, our chairman, made field visits in the middle of the pandemic with masks, of course, right? And social distancing. But they made field visits, in the field, just making sure that our field staff understood that we were right there with them. We understood we were coming to work just like they were. Very important. And also managing the fear of our staff that had to work remotely, and having meetings and letting them know what was happening in the office, making sure they understood how we were preparing for them. So I take time to talk about that because it's real, and that actually led the way to being able to restore confidence to our customers, to let them know as they come back what they were coming back to. Very, very critical in that. Also, the other very important thing that we did is reached out to my colleagues in New Jersey Transit and MTA, developed an amazing, strengthened collaborative relationship with both Pat Foy and Kevin Corbett. Kevin, he is the lead for New Jersey Transit. Pat Foy, as many of you know, he is the chairman for the MTA TA, amazing leaders, of their organization, who both also suffered from the disease and led even while they were in quarantine, continued to lead. We continued to talk almost every day about what we were doing. And it wasn't just at my level, but we allowed our staffs at various staff levels to coordinate and talk to each other about what we are doing. We share a lot of the same customers. So it was important for us that whatever safety measures we were looking at to implement, that it was pretty much consistent across the board. So again, these unprecedented times call for unprecedented leadership. It's not same old, same old. It may never be again, as we say, the new norm, but we've got to embrace it and understand the new times that we're in, and our leadership has to be transformative because it can't stay with us, but it's got to embrace our staff, the essential workers, our support staff, for them to be able to think in this new world of half home, virtual reality of how you lead a massive transportation agency. So it's been a transformative time for PATH, for the Port Authority, but I'm very proud of our agency, of how we've been led by our leaders and just really rising to the action. Proud to collaborate with my partners at New Jersey Transit and MTA, just the collaboration, the sharing of information, and not hoarding it, but really sharing and checking with each other, making sure that we were on par pretty much with each other so that our customers could be safe. I have to remember to move my... So again, the regional coordination, we talked about that. And, our action was really to try and deploy the best in class technologies to look at our systems to see what's the best way. And I heard Paul talk about UV lighting. We've looked into so many of things of what's really the best and most efficient way to provide a sense of safety for our customers. Because basically, as we all looked at it, there were three things that our riders would need to have this perception of safety, because as we all know, perception is greater than reality. And one of the things that was being purported out there was the fact that you get COVID on transit. And that was a main thing that was keeping our customers, and still does, right? Keep our customers from our system. And mass transit is one of the main means of getting large groups of people into an economic driven region. So we had to collaborate and find a way to address those three things. One is masks. The other one is overcrowding. And, how do you address that? And the third was cleanliness. Those are the three things that we felt would really, just appease and really, help our customers feel safer if we address those issues. And that's why the UV lighting, how do we make sure that areas are clean and hard touch surfaces disinfected? So again, looking into best class technologies. What is Spain doing? What is Italy doing? What is Asia doing? Looking at the various aspects of how different transportation agencies throughout the world, those that opened before us, how did they, get their customers back? So one of the first things we looked at as an agency was the daily sanitization of our cars. So we have a fleet of 350 cars that we utilize for our system. And what we discovered was something that worked very easily for us in the early stages, and we're able to do in a 24-hour cadence, to disinfect the entire PATH fleet, all 350 cars, within 24 hours. And basically, it's a very simple electrostatic sprayer that really sits at like a backpack on our cleaning staff, and they go through the cars, and within several minutes, they've been able to accomplish the disinfection of every single car in our revenue fleet. Our trains are hand washed every 72 hours, and throughout the day, they're spot cleaned. So what we've done is we've gone on a massive communications campaign, which I will share with you later, and asked our customers. We said, listen, if you see a cup on the floor, because remember, perception is greater than reality. The whole train could be clean. If somebody sees a cup on the floor, they think it's dirty. So we're saying, listen, and that could have happened en route. So we send out tweet and alerts, and we say, listen, if you see something on the train, let us know. Sometimes trains are cleaned or dirtied en route. We have spot cleaners located at our terminal station. If you send us the information and the very car number that it's on, we will handle it immediately. Again, addressing the perception of cleanliness, addressing their need to see clean. So we, again, going above and beyond what we normally do so that our customers know this is a main concern for us. It's a concern for you, our customers, therefore it's a concern for us. The next thing we did is, again, enhanced cleaning. So at our stations, again, we have 13 stations, we have a staff that every shift, so we run 24/7. We run a system that's 24/7, and we have a staff that basically disinfects high-touch areas every shift. And high-touch areas being our turnstiles, our ticket vending machines, handrails, benches, high-touch areas get disinfected every 24 hours, and we go overboard to let our customers know that they're being disinfected. They even see our staff with spray cleaners and hand cloth. Even the balustrade for escalators are being cleaned on that same cadence, being cleaned and disinfected right in the presence of our customers. So they're seeing it in action. The other issue was, so the best weapon against overcrowding is more trains. So prior to COVID, we had our busiest lines were still Newark to World Trade and Journal Square to 33rd Street lines. They were running every 3 to 4 minutes. When COVID hit and we dropped down to about 14,000, there really wasn't a need for running that many trains. That's number one. Number two, remember our staff started going out on quarantine, large quantities of our staff. So we had a huge absence with our engineers and conductors. So it made sense to be able to go to a 10-minute headway on all our lines and still provide. We can't social distance on our trains, but there was plenty of room, more than ample 6 feet. But as ridership has slowly increased, we're up to about 50,000 riders a day right now on a given weekday. And so as it's slowly increased, what we've done is we've adjusted the schedule. So right now we're back from 10-minute headway to 4 to 5 minutes on our busiest lines and 6 to 7 on our second busiest line in Hoboken to 33rd and Hoboken to World Trade Center lines, and still being able to provide some level of distancing for our customers. Social distancing equates to 6 feet. We can't provide 6 feet on our trains. That would mean we're having 9 people, per car, which is counterintuitive to mass transit, but we do provide distancing, and we do require that everyone wear masks while traveling on our system. So that was very significant for us, providing additional trains. And even as we look to after Labor Day, when we do expect somewhat of a bump up, we're looking we've collected data to understand what the new pattern of our entries are. And what it looks like is we've got a larger group of essential workers just continuing to grow. Office workers, they have They haven't come back as fast as was anticipated. And as a matter of fact, as we've partnered and had conversation with the business community, they're telling us they're not expecting large quantities of office workers to come back, probably to the latter part of this year, 2020, and maybe even early 2021. So all that data is being captured, understood, and modeled as we develop our train schedules, all for the sense of providing space in our cars. No more sardines, and providing as much space as possible for people in every car. Face coverings. By the executive order of both governors of New Jersey and New York, it is required that you have face coverings while you are traveling on mass transit, on the PATH system. On all of the Port Authority facilities, as a matter of fact. And we have signage upon signage every which way but Sunday about wearing face coverings, and the right way to wear face coverings, not below the nose, not below the chin, but covering both the nose and the mouth. We have signage on the cars. We've got Twitter announcements. We have a variety of signs, and looking for even new ways. Again, it's modifying behavior, and letting people know that it's for your safety as well as the person next to you's safety for you to wear those face coverings. We understand that there's some people that may need to breathe, or maybe it's not possible for a medical reason, and that sometimes is a conversation with someone from our staff. Or someone from our police division, but face coverings are required on our system. Employee protection, I talked about that a bit when we first started, very important. Our staff has designated personal protection equipment that they are required to wear as they perform certain tasks. In addition to masks, they're each given hand sanitizers, wipes on a ration basis, because we know those supplies sometimes are not easy to come by. But each staff is provided with the proper PPE depending on the type of work that they're doing. We have looked at every single task because, as some of you transportation professionals know, there's some tasks that require people to work closely together, people to ride vehicles together, track vehicles together as they go into the tunnels to do maintenance work. We've looked at every single task, working along with the unions, with the field supervisors, and determine what PPE is required for certain tasks. Sometimes equipment has had to be modified in the form of putting barriers even in the equipment, going back to the manufacturer and asking them to put barriers in. Do you wear a surgical mask? Is that sufficient for the task you are performing alongside your coworker? Or do you need an N95 mask and be fitted for that? So every task has been looked at with our health professionals, with our safety professionals, along with the unions, to really look to provide the safest level of protection for our employees with the information that we have been provided by the public health departments. Again, our basis of information has always been the CDC and the New York and New Jersey state health departments. That is our foundation, and we work off of that. Working with employees, taking in comments, and we've received some really good feedback and made some improvisation to be able to carry on the work that's required in order to continue with our transportation. We've also installed sanitizing station at our terminal stations. Again, the perception of cleanliness, the perception of safety. If our customers know, hey, okay, so I'm touching this hard surface, this high touch area, where do I clean my hands? They will know that when they get off the train, and the majority of them do get off at terminus stations, there's a sanitizing station for you where you could go and wipe your hands to sanitize. So again, the perception of cleanliness, very important to our customers. We're also providing peak travel data on our website. And what that helps with is to inform the customers, to let them know which are the busiest stations and at what time, so that they can have they can make an informed decision. Maybe if I know at one particular station it's busiest at 8:45, maybe I'll get up 15 minutes early and travel at 8:30, or maybe I'll talk to my boss and come in 15 minutes later and make up the time at the end of the day. Again, informing them with data about our travel patterns so that they can make informed decision. That puts power in their hands, again, to be able to travel on a train with lesser people on it. We're also providing floor markings and wayfinding signage, placing arrows on the floors at certain ticket vending machines that allows for distancing, reminding people of distancing as they queue in certain areas, floor markings in elevators to limit the number of people in elevators. Also bi-directional traffic on stairways and alleyways, so that people are remembering that they need to keep that distance, and that one-way arrow really helps to remind them of that, again, that sense of safety. We also went on a very strong communications campaign to do a couple of things. One, let our customers know that their safety is our top priority. And two, what we're doing about it. What are we doing about it? So we have several signs, talks about masks, how to put on masks, but we're also reminding them about the cleaning that we're performing, about the sanitization of the cars that's being done, about the employee protection that we are providing, reminding them about the additional trains that we're providing during this period of COVID, that even though the numbers don't warrant running 96% of our pre-COVID schedule, that we're running it anyway to provide distance on the train, to keep them safe, to help them feel safe, and to, just really to be responding to their sense of safety in the area of masks, in the area of cleanliness, and in the area of overcrowding, and telling them in a strong campaign through Twitter, through our path alerts, a lot of print media on the trains, digital, our digital kiosks. So again, everywhere they turn, there are reminders about what we are doing during this COVID period. So I wanted to take some time I want to talk about this as well. Again, leading through unprecedented time, that during this time, we also, just around May, when we thought summer's coming and hopefully we'll get a break, we got hit with the Black Lives Matter movement. The entire world got hit with this after the experience with George Floyd on Memorial Day. And again, our agency leadership spun into action, and they developed a leadership steering committee to be able to talk with all employees. There's approximately 8,000 employees in the Port Authority and PATH. Over 1,000 to date have participated in listening sessions, which were done virtually, where people just expressed what they were feeling emotionally. This pandemic was exacerbated by this situation, by the social unrest. And people were already in a place of emotional stress, mental stress, and this just exacerbated it. And our leadership took that opportunity to say, you know what? We need to listen. We need to listen. I've been in the organization over 30 years, and we've never done that before. I don't know of anybody, any other organization that has really done this. Our leadership instituted a leadership steering committee and began listening sessions with the staff. And there are initiatives that are being looked at, projects that are being looked at in response to the recurring themes that were heard during those listening sessions. And that is huge. This has been a year, an unprecedented year, where unprecedented leadership was required to listen and then to act. So I really wanted to make sure we understood that all of that is part of leadership, and how we respond to these times, to the COVID, to the social unrest that our country is experiencing and different parts of the world. Sometimes people just need to be heard. And then, we act in whatever way that we can. So what's next? So what's next is looking at the ridership that continues to increase. We're increasing it about a rate of about 1% per week. Like I said, we had dropped down to about 14,000. Right now we're up at about 50, just over 50,000 average on a weekday. We're continuing to partner with our business community. We're also have interventions aimed at boosting rider confidence. We've done a journey map for customers, just really understanding what their journey is and being able to address their needs at certain points of their journey. When they wake up in the mornings, the first thing they do is look at their phone. What information can we provide them up front that will strengthen their decisions beginning that point in time? Maybe, so Grove Street is crowded right now, then I'll go to another station. Again, looking at being able to arm our customers with as much information as possible, reaffirming commitment to diversity and inclusion through action, like I just talked about, with the social unrest. Last year, even though it's not on here, last year, PATH rolled out its PATH improvement plan. It was a plan that had an investment of over $1 billion. Included in that was the Signal program that brought PTC, positive train control, the conclusion of positive train control in December of 2018, and also additional train service by reduced headways with the Signal system. We're also looking at 9-car trains, introducing additional cars to, again, provide additional capacity to our bursting network. Also included serious look at our maintenance to be able to reduce delays. And then COVID hit. So this was June of 2019, and we gave ourselves an 18-month. So December 2020 was supposed to be a time where we looked at how is our PATH improvement plan doing, and then again in 2021 a third. So our milestones were 18 and 30 months. So just happy to say that a little over a year later, our delays are down by 33% from last June. So even in the midst of COVID, our PATH improvement plan is still strong. Our ability to increase capacity, we're continuing to look at as we reevaluate our capital program due to funding with the 9-car train capacity and reducing headways. So we are continuing to look at that. And the other strong part of our program was the communications, adding on a communications executive, improving our communications with our customers, which is on point. We've hired a new social media team, which we've never had before, that's solely dedicated over specific hours to be able to communicate back and forth with our customers on social media. So our PATH improvement plan is strong and continuing to advance. We're looking for outside of the box thinking as we continue to advance it, and just really excited to continue meeting the needs of our riders and providing that critical service across the Hudson River, continuing to be that critical partner and link in the Trans-Hudson network. Thank you.